We all know we have baby teeth and we have adult teeth, and we have different stages when the usually adult teeth come in. And what a space maintainer is doing usually, guys, is we have kids that the teeth are just so bad or infected that we have to remove those teeth. And again, if the tooth needs to come out and the other tooth needs at least a year or longer to come in, this is where we start thinking about a space maintainer. Like, why we're maintaining this space? Because usually the kids is growing, and think about it, every time they grow, if there is nothing in between, the teeth start to shift, and this is where the adult tooth will not have the right place to come in. So we have multiple ways, like if we remove some kids, we remove a tooth, some people we remove 2 teeth, 3 teeth, so we have different kind of space maintainers. So the most common thing you hear us telling, like it's like a one side, or we call it like like bilaterals and
bilateral and unilateral.
So unilateral space maintainer, it's just when we really cover just one tooth. Imagine, for example, we have tooth K, and tooth K got infected, and then we have to remove the tooth. Now there is a premolar underneath it. Now the question is, now we need to maintain this space for the premolar, which is tooth number 29. Now how we want to do it? Now this is a very tricky tooth, because sometimes we have the adult teeth behind it. Sometimes the kid is 4 years old, and then we don't have a tooth to do like a band and loop. This is where we're having. That's why I want like to have some pictures. It's always easier. So imagine if we have an adult tooth behind the baby tooth. So number 30 or number 19 is in, and we extracted number T or number K. So this is where we put a band and a loop on the adult tooth to cover. Yes, this is always the easiest way. Cool. Now, so you see, so this is where adult tooth is in. So we put a band and we put a loop, so just to cover this. Now, this is where if the adult tooth is not erupted. Okay, this is, imagine this is a 4 years old, and a 4 years old.
Touch screen.
Ah, really? So a 4 years old, and then the adult tooth is not in. This is where we do a distal chew, right? So we do something that goes behind. I myself don't do it at all here, because most of the kids that we treat have really bad hygiene, and this kind of like space maintainer goes literally from the gum all the way to the bone. So if they have a bad hygiene and they're not brushing well, they can get pretty easy infected. So most of the time they're not a good like treatment for the kids that we see. But it's always good to see. Now, if you look on this side, this is, for example, imagine we have the top, and then we removed A and we removed J. So we're not gonna do 2 bands and loop on the single one. This is how we do a bilateral one. This is what we call enhance. Goes on the top, and then they have just a button that goes on the palate. Now, don't get me wrong. This one, I've seen so many kids, they come in, I mean you too, where this area is just white, like literally they don't brush, and imagine it's just an area where food gets stuck. It's well like a candida or pills infection get there, and I've seen it so many times. That's why like space maintainer, they need, like the parents need to be aware that this is like, they need to take it seriously and clean it pretty seriously. So the idea here is to maintain the space until the tooth start to come in. This is usually when we say, okay, it's time for the space maintainer to be removed. We get the space maintainer like band removal appliance. We ask for one, and we remove them, and then we have to clean the teeth. Now, most of the time, if we're talking just about like single or like one side space maintainer, unilateral, we have those instruments. So there is a prefabricated band and loop. Like lately, if you're working with me in GA, I've been doing those more in GA. Like I don't do them much now outside, but like in GA, just to show you what it is. But it's something, it can be done in 5 minutes. So it's nothing hard. Like even if a kiddo is good and we put him under GA because he has like a lot of teeth to be removed or to be treated, if the child is good, we can bring them back after and place the space maintainer. Because sometimes, imagine the tooth is so infected, you remove the tooth, it's just bleeding and blood, you just can't cement anything, it's just gonna pop off. So sometimes you have to wait until the healing process starts to happen and then do the space maintainer. Most of the kids we can, because they're young or they are just so combative. So that's why sometimes say, okay, let's just leave it alone. So it's a balance between the space maintainer and not wanting the teeth to shift, and how much work you need to do. Can you take impression? Because those one for bilateral, you need to take an impression and we send it to the lab. I mean, you've seen the kids were taking impression. It's not the easiest one. Now with the splash, I don't know if you've been working with splash lately. It's for me, it's an easier thing. Still, some kids have a gag reflex and they can't really carry it down. But the most important part from the whole thing is just to explain and to understand, to explain to the parents why we're doing those, why we need to keep the hygiene, what is the negative and the positive side. And sometimes the parents decide, I don't want to do it, or let's do it, or it pop off. So this has to be with a lot of communication with the parents, because you've seen so many kids walking every 2 months with the space maintainer popped off, and then you have to re-cement it and then come off a little bit more. It's a lot of headache, it's a lot of maintaining for it. So you need the parents who understand that it could be cleaning, they have to come multiple times, but this is to make sure their teeth does not shift. Other than that, I mean, literally that's what it is. So it's maintaining the space. Sometimes we can do it chair side, sometimes we have to take an impression and send it to the lab. I don't know about the pre-auth. Does that require pre-authorization if it's not? So it's different. So we don't require. So we can just take an impression. It's different than a flipper, right? Flipper that's always required. Okay, that's good to know. And again, do you have any questions?
We do flippers?
Yes.
Which one's the flipper?
Pushes out.
Oh, the one pushes the tooth out?
No,
No,
that's
that's
a
a
spring.
finger spring.
That's
Oh.
finger spring.
Oh.
Finger spring is just to move one tooth.
Oh.
Flipper
I didn't
is
know we did that.
it's just to replace a tooth that was extracted.
A
or
guy in
killed.
San Marcos broke his tooth in half, and he got a flipper. 'cause
Oh,
didn't have
did he
his
come
front
back in?
teeth.
Was it?